Okay, Darrin. You've often credited growing up in New York for shaping your artistic sensibilities. Can you share a specific memory from your youth, maybe a street performance, a family moment, or a local event that truly ignited your passion for the arts?
That's a great starting statement. Yes, when I was in the fourth grade, there was a show that came to the school. It was an artistic show. It was an artistic dance show. And I remember the gentleman's name. His name was Randy. I don't remember the company name, but I remember it was an African dance troupe. They had drums. They had, African-style clothing, also long leotards. I remember what the man looked like. And I remember him performing and the excellence and focus that he put into it. And this is when I was in the fourth grade. I don't remember how old you are in the fourth grade, but I remember that it had a very substantial effect on my mind when it came to performing. And so it was young as the fourth grade. Yes.
Okay. You're one of the few artists who have excelled as an actor, choreographer, producer, and author. What's your process for switching between these creative hats, and how do you keep your artistic energy fresh across so many disciplines?
That's a great question. I don't know that it's fresh, especially right now. And what I mean by that is until I work out what I'm presently focused on, then it's very difficult for me, to allow other things in, because if I haven't finished something, it's very difficult for me to start something else. But when I'm working on something, I focus on following through. I believe in the acronym, follow one course until successful, focus. And so sometimes it takes a little bit longer to complete something. But at that point, I stop thinking about time and I just start focusing on the process. And as long as you focus on the process, time takes care of itself. So I do one thing at a time. I don't believe in multitasking. I think multitasking means that you're divided with your attention. And so, I normally focus on one thing at a time. So if you look at the infrastructure of what I deliver as an artist, because that's what I am, an artist, and as Erykah Badu would say, I'm sensitive about my shit, right? It's one thing at a time, so when you see me on the television series, you don't see me putting out a book, or if you see me putting out a book, you don't see me, the film was already done. So these things don't happen at the same time. They lend themselves to different time periods in my life. They just seemingly culminate together, which makes it look like I'm a genius, but I don't know if I am. I just focus on what I want to do and get it done.
Okay. Excuse me. You worked with legends, including Michael Jackson. Can you tell us some behind-the-scenes experiences? What did you learn from him, and how did that moment change your approach to your craft?
Yes. Specifically, I'll pick a few. Michael Jackson, Prince, specifically, a director, Gary Fleeter, that I worked with on a movie called The Express. These people that I just mentioned, Prince, Michael Jackson, Gary Fleeter, they were so focused, and they had a love affair with the medium, whether it was dance, whether it was music, there was or directing a film. There was a love affair that was happening, and they didn't focus on anything else other than what they were doing. And I think, again, when you focus on that, it brings you to a different place in our society. You know, so many people want to be famous. They want shortcuts. You know, they want the popularity and the money. Well, there are no shortcuts when it comes to success, to excellence. You know, the success is in the details. And when you focus on the details, you know, it's not quick. It takes time. And so I learned that from them, to apply the time that you have. And that time will have its own pressure. And you'll allow that pressure to make the diamond, right, to produce the result that you're working on. And so for me, that's what I got. It's like, focus on the creativity of it all. Focus on the love of it all. Focus on the passion of it all. And everything else will take care of itself. And when it's time to birth that baby, you know, the baby will be birthed healthy and strong.
Okay. You've played some iconic roles like Jim Brown in The Express and Grant in Stomp the Yard, which was my favorite role. Which role pushed you the furthest out of your comfort zone, and what did you discover about yourself as an actor in the process?
Actually, both of those roles pushed me because if anybody knows anything about stepping, they're different rhythms. And it's like drumming, and I don't drum. So it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life when I did Stomp the Yard. You know, that within itself, it's unlike dance. Dance is syncopated in a different way. But when you've got to hold two different beats at the same time, it's not easy. So my hat goes off to all of those fraternities and sororities that do it so eloquently. And in The Express, you know, just playing a person, at that time Jim Brown was alive. And, you know, I was so concerned with, you know, playing him properly because he was so much more than a football player. You know, he was an activist, he was a businessman, he was a dad, husband, and in my opinion, a genius when it came to life. And so, you know, I was very concerned about, you know, playing him in the correct light. You know, I think people who passed on, they can't say anything, but somebody who's alive, you know, they can tell you got it right, which Jim said. He told me that. Those were his words. You got it right. And so, you know, what I learned is when you care about what you do and you focus on it and you give everything you got, you'll always make it. You'll always win. You'll always progress. You'll always learn. And that's really what I learned, is to always really do my best and don't worry about anything else. Yeah. And every time I do that, I win. Each and every time I do that, I win. And so I learned that about myself, you know, that the hard times don't last forever.
That's true. That's true. Winning the MTV Award for NSYNC's Bye 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 is such a pop culture milestone. What was your inspiration for that routine? And did you have any inkling that it would become a dance craze still celebrated decades later?
My inspiration for Bye 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 was in the power of the movement. You know, it's the Black Power fist pump. And the Bye 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 part of it, where I come from in New York, when people talk too much, you know, we do that hand gesture like, stop talking so much. You know, like, bye, get out of my face. And that's really what it was. So it, you know, and that was true. So I think the energy of the Black Power fist and the Bye 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 Bye, you know, culminated in everybody feeling it and understanding it. It's like, you know, I tapped in to something that the whole world could understand. And no, I didn't know it was going to be as big and popular as it is. And, you know, with that, you know, things happened and things changed. And, you know, they used the dance in the movie Deadpool. And, they called it the Deadpool dance. It's not the Deadpool dance. It's the dance that Darrin Henson created, and it was created for NSYNC for Bye Bye Bye. So it forever will be the dance that I created, and the Bye 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 dance, not the Deadpool dance. The Deadpool,
that's right,
just used it, but it was already created.
That's true. Your work in Zulu Wedding earned you an international nomination in Africa. How did working in another country and culture influence your perspective as an artist and as a person?
Wow. Well, first, doing Zulu Wedding, it was a dream come true because I finally got to put my feet on the continent of Africa, which is something that I've always wanted to do. And I was there for about 3 months filming the movie, and I learned about the different tribes, the Zulu tribe, the Xhosa tribe, so many different tribes and different tongues in Africa. It reminds me of the black diaspora, like we're so different in so many different ways, but we're all one. And it just really gave me a sense of pride, a sense of self, and a sense of belonging. When I was there, it was like the energy of the ground had rooted in my body. And so when I left, I felt like I was leaving home. I felt like I was actually leaving home. And, being nominated for an AMA Award, which is the equivalent to being nominated for an Oscar, it still humbles me, to have been on the continent, to work there, and live there for 3 months, and then to be accepted by the community and nominated really is still very, very humbling to me.
Okay. Your book, Intimate Thoughts and the Spirit of Change, started as a personal project. What surprised you most about the response to your writing, and how did sharing those intimate thoughts with the world impact you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really did write it singularly. And what I mean by that, it was written on different types of papers, toilet paper, it was written on notebook paper, written on regular white paper, legalized pieces, and then retranscribed for the book. But really it was written for myself because I had a lot of thoughts. And I used to write poetically. And it was just a way for me to get out what was inside of me. I tend to, if I hold things in, I tend to feel like I'm crashing and burning. But when I'm able to communicate it, whether it's through dance, whether it's through writing, whether it's through acting, then there seems to be a peace that comes from it. And so I met a lot of people over the years who had a lot of questions, and I've realized that through my writing, I had answered a lot of questions that people had. And I wanted to be helpful, so I actually put it in a book form. And, just really prayed about it and hoped that it could help people. And over the years, it actually has. It's become a bestseller. And, it was just, I'm humbled that my life has been able to assist other people in the questions that they have about what they're going through. And so it's just a format of different feelings and different ideas and different answers that people may identify with that can help them.
Yeah. Okay. So many young creatives look up to you as a multi-hyphenate. What's one piece of practical advice you wish someone had given you when you were first starting out?
Invest your money in property. Invest. Invest. Have fun, but think about your future. Have fun, but invest. I think we don't have that conversation enough with our youth.
We don't.
You know, most of our youth are living day to day, and they're not thinking, you know, about 10 years from now. You know, an 8-year-old isn't thinking about when he's 18, or an 18-year-old isn't thinking about when they're 28. You know, they're excited about being 21 and being able to drink, right? Like, to me, that doesn't make sense. And so, you know, when we properly prepare the youth for the future, then you're really giving them a chance to be in a space where, you know, they can produce something positive for themselves that they can not only be proud of, but be in a protective state opposed to being a defensive state.
Well, you know, it's a little different now because a lot of us, I was born in 1980, and a lot of us, our parents didn't teach us those things, you know, to invest and to do, you know, because they weren't taught. So we're learning, and then we're having to teach our children so that our children can do better than us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, my mother used to repeat something. She used to say, you know, she didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, you know, and I heard that long enough that I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I learned, you know, they say it takes a wise man to learn from the mistakes of others, and a fool learns from his own mistakes. Well, if we can get to a point where we start learning from other people, then we don't have to repeat the cycle.
That's right.
Unfortunately, it's a lot of repeating going on. So, you know, it's really about taking responsibility, you know, for yourself. You know, early on, we see other cultures, you know, their children at 13 years old are working, you know, with their fathers or their mothers, you know, and understanding and learning and studying business, where we're playing video games at home. Or outside on the street corner. Like, that has to change. If not, we'll continue suffering, and we'll continue working for other people opposed to developing businesses for ourselves. When we have the ability to build businesses, when we have the ability to work for ourselves and become our own CEOs, you know, I believe in being the chief executive officer of myself.
That's right. That's right. With such a rich career, what's still on your bucket list? And are there any new creative territories you want to explore? And what do you hope your legacy will be in the entertainment industry?
You know, I keep hearing that word legacy. And I think it's in the word. You know, the details are in the word leg. Your legs are moved. Your legs are used to keep moving, right? And then see why, right? So your legs keep moving, and you'll see why. So it's, to me, it's in the word. So keep moving your legs, meaning keep going, and you'll see why. Meaning your intention of what you do. Everything that you do, you know, people will talk about if it's worthy, if you've added value to somebody's life. It could be, you know, the life of your children. It could be the life of your neighborhood. It could be, you know, worldly. But what you do is your legacy, right? Whatever it is that you do. And if you do nothing, that will be your legacy.
That's right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the legacy is about what you do in life. It's about your footprint. Like, to me, your shadow lives longer than you. And what I mean by that is this. Your shadow comes from the sun, comes from light. And in the presence of that light, it casts a shadow, right? And that shadow is the other you. It's you moving, but outside of yourself. And so that means you have to move in the light, right? So if you follow me on this, when people talk about you, they're going to talk about what you did or what you didn't do. That becomes a part of your legacy, right? So when we use the word leg, and I know this answer is long, but again, when you use the word leg, the legs are used for you to keep moving, and then you will see why. Meaning, if you keep moving, everything keeps unfolding. You will see why. Because you may not even know what your legacy is until the end. But you will see why you kept moving. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
But if you give up and you stop, you'll never know.
That's right. That's so true.
Your legacy is always unfolding, and it's with your intention. It's with your intention it unfolds. And so, to me, the legacy is always unfolding. You know, what do I want my legacy to be? Well, we'll see where my legs take me. We'll see how far I go. You know, I've already written a part of that legacy, you know, clearly with the work that I've done, that I've attributed to what other people have left for me to be inspired from, right? Because that became a part of my legacy. I was inspired by others, and then I did what I did, and hopefully what I do inspires other people. So that's a part of that legacy. It's a part of me moving, and I'll see why later.
Okay. All right. You become a fan favorite as Orlando Duncan on BET's The Family Business. Great show. Now in its 6th season, what do you find most compelling about playing Orlando? And how has his character evolved for you over the years?
Well, for me, I feel like Orlando and Darrin have fused together. You know, I'm very similar to my character, and he's very similar to me. We go through a lot of the same emotions. And so sometimes that happens with a character. You know, when you go in deep, the character and the person fuse together. And so, you know, Orlando has taught me to realize that you don't know what happens next all the time. You don't know how life changes. You don't know when something will happen that will affect you in a way, and you'll have to use every last part of your being to try to work it out, you know? And so life imitates art, and art imitates life.
That's true. Okay. Can you share any behind-the-scenes stories or memorable moments from filming that really stands out?
What I can tell you is this. Season 6 is probably the very best season out of all of the seasons that we have, and I'm really excited for everybody to see the show in October. I'm really, really excited about it. I can't say too much in terms of spoilers, but I can tell you that the fans will probably say this is the best season of all of the seasons. Okay.
I'm excited. It's another show, crossover. What's it? Not crossover. What's the name of it? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. You played a police officer, and it was two twins, and
it's called Double
Cross. Thank you. I love that show. Me and my husband, we got hooked on that show, and we watched that thing all the way from beginning to end. And you did a great job, and I just want to let you know that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had a great time playing Detective Ryan.
Yes.
We did 5 seasons of the show, and I'm grateful to Crystal and Howard Gibson for pulling me into, such a wonderful show and working with them.
Yes, that was a great show. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, that's the end of our interview, and it was an honor for me to interview you today. I hope you enjoyed the questions, and we didn't ask anything that you weren't comfortable with.
No. I appreciate it. I appreciate the interview. I appreciate the story in the magazine, the cover. I'm excited that we're getting ready to show everybody the work. When does the cover drop, and when does the story drop? Because we want to be on top of that for you.
August 1st.